Welcome back to the You Winning Life podcast. This is my second to last interview of this amazing weekend. I've been at GoBundance here in Miami, Florida. Thank goodness it's only a 30-minute drive without traffic. So it's been a lovely weekend hanging out with this community. And one of my conversations when I got here, I was wandering around in the evening, not even noticing that there was vendors at this event. And one of the vendors is also part of the program because it was founded by one of the sponsors of GoBundance. And I'm sitting with Susan Jacobson. She is the operations director of One Life Fully Lived, which is a nonprofit organization, which we're going to get more into, and all the mind-blowing, insane stuff that really, after seeing what they're doing and what you'll hear about what they do, I believe is such an essential that everybody should have this information, but you're targeting very specific populations. So welcome.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here, and had a great time.
I'm so glad. So, I mean, besides the bio, you guys will all see it on there, but you know, you bring all this stuff to the table, and there's so many different ways we can start. But just how did you end up here doing this? The connection to this organization. How did you decide to go into nonprofit work? What about your life brought you to that as a mission and passion for you?
You know, I think really serving others and helping people develop to their full potential is something that I started very young. I mean, I can remember being 4 and 5 years old and having just learned to read, and then helping everybody around me, all my friends, learn to read. And so the fulfillment I got when that light went on, I knew that I was working where I should be. You know, I helping people learn a skill, do something new, find joy in themselves because of their sense of accomplishment, you know, was equally rewarding to me. And so that, you know, led me on a journey that, I want to be a teacher. I also want to be a singer. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a singer. And kind of as I headed down that place, I always found myself in roles of teaching. One of the things that I did as I entered, you know, professional life, or as I was a grown-up, I was working in advertising actually at the time, and this was like in the late 80s, you know, and so it was like hardcore, you know, advertising and that sort of thing. And then also was looking at trying to, you know, be a singer. And so also a very run fast and hard life, and maybe females had to do more than what they were willing to do, which I was not. And so I walked from a singing career. Walked from a singing career because I was not about to go into some other room with someone I didn't want to do something with. But at the same time, I was coaching sports. And I found that, again, there I was teaching, helping people develop to their full potential. The sport was the vehicle, and winning is the byproduct of hard work, goal setting, risk taking, overcoming fear, perseverance, all of those things that create that opportunity for you to live your very best life. They were skills that you needed, that were life skills. And so conversations I would have with parents in sport about, they wanted a collegiate scholarship, they want this. You know, I would have a meeting with our parents at the beginning of each season and say, hey, welcome. We're really happy to have you here. I'm super excited to go on this journey with your children. But if you're looking for a college scholarship, there's the door.
Nice.
And literally, there were families that they opted out. I never had to kick a family out of a program, but there were families that opted out, hopefully early in that relationship. But it was very much because, like I said, winning's a byproduct of the hard work and perseverance and the things that you do to get there that have it happen. And I'm focused on that. Not how many medals you win. You know, I'm really focused on how they grow. So that was something that I loved when I was working those other, you know, really jobs. And actually as I began to create, you know, build businesses and open businesses, you know, and open my own gym and things like that along the way, those were the things that served us well, you know. But I found myself always going back at that time to sport, you know, and coaching. And no matter what I was doing, I was always coaching kids. I was always involved in sport. So that was the vehicle that I used. And then that led me to doing more and more nonprofit work. I was consulting. I was a team leader for the London 2012 Olympics. I was with a group of other sport administrators, other team leaders, and we were talking about our sports, and we all face the same troubles. And I thought, you know, nobody helps us really understand all of the different things. Sports are big, little, you know, but you all had the same problem. So I started a nonprofit at that time, my own nonprofit that was going to go and help, and which I did. You know, I helped coaches, leaders, and actually governing bodies expand their programs. So instead of coaching 100 athletes, I started coaching coaches, and I started coaching leaders, and so as you begin to scale, so now I'm affecting like a whole country of athletes instead of just 3 kids I'm coaching or whatever. And at that time, that's when I met our founder, Tim Rode. And yeah, he was one of the 3 founding members of the GoBundance tribe. Mm-hmm. But before there was GoBundance, there was One Life Fully Lived. And so Tim and I met living in the small town Tim grew up in. My husband grew up in that same town in Northern California. I had this nonprofit that I was doing some local sports programming with, trying to kind of create a sustainable model in that community, because that was another thing I learned about it. Can't all be based on you, and so you've got to be able to backfill and have succession plan and make sure that the organization is truly needed and is supported in order to keep going. And then also having this global, I was flying around the world, consulting. And so started helping Tim and One Life Fully Lived and looking at what his objectives were. Incredibly visionary guy with great ideas and content and how he was trying to reach people, but needed a plan. One of the biggest, most heartfelt, kind, but so much energy, so many amazing ideas. And so he refers to me affectionately as being the adult in the room. So we took all of that and then created some programming.
Yeah, that's amazing. So it sounds like, right, as I'm listening to this story, it's kind of like there was this charmed life that you were doing. You had, this music and businesses and working with all these amazing athletes and creating incredible stuff. But there was some grit and adversity that led you. That.
It didn't, and so my life has kind of been like that, right? Mm-hmm. So, I talked about being a little girl and wanting to teach and help other people. So I had that ability to see that, not everybody had everything they needed to be successful. And so how could I help those people? And I learned early on that things aren't fair for everyone. My very best friend in the 3rd grade was a black girl, and I couldn't go play in her neighborhood, and she couldn't come play in mine. This was in Las Vegas during the times of riots and a lot of the stuff that was going on back then. And so I knew things weren't always the same for everybody and wondered, what could I do to help that? But I was moving along, and then tragedy hit at 11 years old. So my mom grew up in a very poor environment, a block off 8 Mile in Detroit. Her family slept next to the freezer for the heat that comes out in the winter when it the freezer lets off heat when it discharges, and so they couldn't afford heat in their house. My dad came from a very affluent neighborhood. They met in church. So I lived with kind of her fears of scarcity and his mind of abundance. But then he died at 11. My mom only knew now everything would change, and what she had before would be her life again. And she went through a very difficult time, and that evening I almost assumed the role of the adult while she grieved for the next several years in that circumstance. And so I realized right then, if I didn't take care of us, nobody would. If I didn't take these steps to make sure we were okay, nobody would. And so going from this very protected, perfect life to some pretty scary times. I mean, she had a good job, blue-collar job, for the phone company. So she was going to work, and, things were happening. But I, as teenagers do, I was entering into my preteens, teen years, so I was living life full. I was the grown-up in the house. I did whatever the heck I wanted and didn't always make the best choices. And so from that, found myself, wanted to move out, and got married at 17, ended up in an abusive situation, fled that, homeless on the beach in LA because I thought I'd pursue that singing career. Worked a whole bunch of jobs in order to get into an apartment that I could afford to pay and move to the next level. And so, I've had a roller coaster of, hey, things are safe. Oh, hey, things aren't so much. Hey, things are good. And actually, isn't that the life of small business? Right? Isn't that what you do?
For sure.
Yeah, it is. And so resilience, like you said, grit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, that ties directly into the nonprofit, which is that life cycle of the populations that this nonprofit is serving is incredible. So let's just start off with there. What are the populations that this is serving? And then we'll go into what you guys are doing. And for those of you who can't hear, you're not seeing this, but there's an incredible book. Like, I don't want to call it a journal because it is a journal, but it's a
activity
handbook.
book. Yeah,
it's a handbook.
There you go.
And as I went through it the other night and just seeing what's in here, I think my first comment to you was like right, it is amazing for the population, because when you go to these masterminds or these boot camp conferences, you'll get stuff like this, and or if you watch certain, you buy a $99 program, you'll get some type of thing. But this is going to a very specific population that would never walk into or might not even ever have access to this type of communities.
Right. And so I think about that coming out of what if when I fled the abusive situation, I ended up in a transitional setting, and I didn't have to go be homeless. Because there weren't lots of resources available, at that point anyway, for those circumstances. But what if I'd ended up in a place that was providing some supportive housing, and they had this program here that helped people create a roadmap for their lives? And so, One Life Fully Lives, a nonprofit that helps people create a roadmap to dream, plan, and live their best lives. Right? And we use two things, what we call the fulfillment triangle. And so it's where your passion, what you love to do, meets the talent, what you're good at, and there's demand for that. And that's where you find fulfillment, is when you put those things together, whether that's at work, in your relationships, in charitable giving, how do you align there? And then there's what we call the core four. And so these are the four pillars that create that holistic approach to living a full life, but having this systematic program that you can follow. And program's not the right word. It's just universal truths. This is information that's been out there. We just put it together in a very easily digestible manner. Vision. Mm-hmm. So if I knew I couldn't fail, what would I love to do? What do I want my life to look like? One of our roadmap certified guides says, you live until the last person speaks your name. Mm. So what is that? When you've left the earth, you're still here as long as people are talking about you. What are they saying? Right. What do you want that to be? What do you want to be?
Your legacy.
It is, but that's not something when we work with vulnerable population they even think about, because that could be tomorrow, right? So the next thing then after that, so if you knew you couldn't fail, what did your 4-year-old self say you wanted to be? What was the fearlessness? Can you answer that right now? Maybe not that thing, but just if there were no barriers in the way, if all the challenge you face today aren't present, what would you love to do? And then the next question is around the finances. So how are you going to fund this amazing dream you were born to live? And then relationships, who's going to be with you on your journey? What about you? How well do you know you? Who are the 5 that are playing the most influence in your life? And where can you find mentors to help you get to where you want to go? And then the last one's wellness. Will I be healthy enough in my mind, body, and spirit to get there and enjoy it for years and years to come once I'm there? So that's the core 4, what we call the core 4. It's evergreen. Mm-hmm. It applies to people listening today. I have conversations. Sometimes we do leadership events that are with the leaders of nonprofits. So here in Miami this week, we've been doing what we call a city blitz. A city blitz is where we come to a town. We serve 6 organizations. Sometimes we serve their clients directly, the people that they're serving directly. Sometimes we serve the leaders of those organizations, or in this case, we went to an event that was a monthly leadership training. So we had 35 leaders of local Miami organizations serving those in the most vulnerable situations. Yeah. And they go through this, and we do that because in the nonprofit, sometimes you don't put your oxygen mask on first. Mm-hmm. You're serving so much, you let yourself. That was me. I wasn't worried about money. I just wanted to help people. But if by that, I wasn't able to, I was always stressed myself, right? I'm hustling. In my businesses, I was just buying a job. It was no different than working for somebody else, but often
Correct.
Without the benefits, right? Yeah. So it wasn't until I came along and met Tim and started going through the content and helping him create this system or this curriculum that I was like, oh crap, I'm not doing that. Oh crap, I'm not doing that. And guess what? I started doing it. Hey,
things got better.
Things are better.
Yeah.
And I realized that how I showed up was so much stronger, because now, we think of Maslow's theory of hierarchy, mm-hmm. right? Like that basic survival. I mean, I was maybe sometimes barely surviving, other times doing a little better from that, but I certainly wasn't moving up into those self-actualization levels, right? So if we think about that, and where can we go? So it is very evergreen, but our goal is to work with the people that don't have this information and access in their lives. They can't even look around because, like some of the work we do in South Philly, right? We've got an amazing guy, Will Little. If you guys look him up, the work that we're doing with where Will comes from. Will Will was fatherless home, growing up with his mom and his sisters. He needed to help people get by. He needed to help the family live, so he went out. He started hustling. That was the only place he could see to make money. He started caught up in gangs and the drug trade, went bad, ended up in a shootout. A guy died. Will shot back and guy died. He ended up in prison. In prison, he decided he wanted to make a change. He learned that he had a kid on the way, wanted to make a change, didn't want to go back to what he had. And so he started working on himself first. But after he came out, he came across Tim. Tim was beginning to share the One Life Roadmap content. It wasn't called a roadmap yet. It was just these universal truths that he used because success leaves clues. And it was around these areas. And Will was already an activist in his community, but now same thing. He put that oxygen mask on, and now he's an author. He's been featured in films. He's a life coach. He's got an amazing internet community that are sharing some of the issues that face them. So when we go into these communities where all people have seen is the violence on the street, we were in Orlando a few weeks ago in the Paramore neighborhood, and I'm with a group of amazing young men between the ages of, I think they were 14 and 19. And when we were working with them and talking to me, if you knew you couldn't fail, what's the first thing you want? I just want to have a house where I don't hear gunfire at night, right? So when we talk about what that is in those communities, some of the people that we work with are maybe, we say we serve people, at-risk youth, and those emerging from hardship.
Right.
So emerging from hardship. So you've been struggling with addiction, and you're in recovery. You've made a choice that the life you were living isn't the life you want to be. You're sick and tired. What is that? Sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
Right? You just got out of jail, or you're in jail. You don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. What do I do next? You just escaped domestic violence.
Yeah.
What do you want to do next? So that's a lot of the, you could just think of it's generational poverty. People that have just lived in the grips of a system for so long and they don't know anything else. Yeah. That's the group that we aim to serve, to give them access, tools, knowledge, skills, information in a very easy way to understand, with tools that they can plug in right now and see a change.
Yeah. My first thought is how much we take for granted. So if we're sitting here and we're listening to this, if you're listening to this episode, your life is going pretty well. There might be shit that's going down, but your life on the whole is probably going pretty well if you have enough free time to be listening to a podcast, or you've decided that you want to make your life better and somehow you stumbled upon my podcast and you're finding that there's some value in here. And I really do want to start the next part of our conversation just taking a moment of gratitude for these journeys, right? My own crap in my life got me to be a therapist, and it just was chaotic and messy and gross. And then the next stage was moving into this entrepreneurship world and starting to be able to see myself in these levels. I mean, it's all developmental stages, but knowing that none of that it all happened the way it needed to happen for some level and some reason. But I keep my eyes keep scanning back to this book as it's sitting here, the Roadmap Journal, and I just keep I don't know why something organic is all right, so what's the next version that just needs to be sold everywhere? And this needs to be the basic, one of the books that needs to be on everybody's shelves. I mean, it's so incredible. And this in and of itself is a treasure of information. And I'm not just saying it because I've been in other curriculums, I've been in other community programs, and a lot, like you said, they're all evergreen, they're all somewhere. But to have it simple, to have it compiled, to have it actually look nice. I like the Starbucks colors. It's a very it looks like the Starbucks logo.
Yeah, we try
right?
to keep that very natural.
Very yeah. But it's Ryan Serhant was here on Friday night, and I grabbed him between him finishing signing on his walk to the elevator. And I'm like, you made a therapist joke, and then you said everybody should go to do improv instead of going to therapy, which I think is super cool. Everybody should go to improv, right? But I'm like, I'm offended, Ryan. You give me 3 minutes of your time.
Let's do comedy and therapy together.
Right. So yeah, as I looked up, the 4 feet taller that he is than me, and I'm like, what's your legit? What do you do for your real self-care? I mean, I know you work out. And he goes, I journal. I try to spend a lot of time journaling, and actually when that became one of my books, or both my books. And I know that like there's a thing about journaling, and like some people swear by it. Some people are like, ha ha ha, I don't know, whatever, that's really going to do anything for me. And some people are like, yeah, I would never. I walk by that aisle in Barnes and Noble or my friend journals, and like, nah, it's like complete waste of time. Like, what would you say from your, I mean, like you said, you were going through some of this stuff as you were compiling. I don't want to even minimize some of that stuff. Like it's right at a certain point, this is free information for some people that we can find it all on the internet, and we're not taking opportunity to invest.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing about the One Life Roadmap Journal, and you can get it on Amazon. There's an adult edition and a student edition. So if you're a teen, or you've got a kid that's just getting ready to graduate high school, or it's a great tool. It's you like the graphics in this one. It's more playful for the kids, and actually we arrange it differently, kind of like so they can follow it for a year. We scaffold the information so it's a little, then the next chapter is a little deeper. It continues to kind of grow their skill level, whereas in the adult version we divide it just by the pillars, straightforward like that, but there's lots of activities. So there's a combination of, here's some guided exercises, and it's funny, we start with gratitude. That's the very first thing in the book, is no matter what population, even when we go around, we do free 2-hour roadmap experiences, which is an interactive, evidence-based, experience that is where we call on the wisdom of the group. I keep saying these are universal truths. What happened is, Tim learned all these things. What we did was just to put it into a plan that allows you to create it and follow these steps, And so
wash and repeat.
Exactly correct. And so when we do the free 2-hour experience with groups and organizations, we guide them through, and it's group source wisdom, because we want you to be the hero of your own story. We want you to realize that the information, we don't need to give it to you. It's actually around you. We want to guide you. That's why we call them roadmap guides. They're not teachers, presenters, speakers, any of that
Mentors.
thing. We're not standing up there telling you what it is. We're actually, let's talk about it. Who do you know that was smart with their money? What did they do? This is one of the questions in that 2-hour event, right? And so, but in the book, same thing. There's a series of activities.
It's the same thing here. I'm cracking up because there's a reason why 98% of it, because I've had majority of the people I've interviewed have been in real estate here. And I'm like, there's a reason why 98%, because I saw they asked the question, like, how many people here in either active or passive real estate? And there was like 3 people who didn't raise their hand in the room. Right. And I'm like, okay. And then I've been talking on every episode with someone who's been involved in real estate. So it's that question applies, like how you asked it there. It's like if you're listening to this episode and we ask this same question, right? If you ask me that question, what are the people that I know that are doing the most successful things in their life that have created some level of financial freedom? What are they doing? It's real estate. They
are doing real estate. We talk when you get to the finances section, one of the first things that we ask everybody is, what's financial freedom? What is that? And so there's a lot of answers you get. The reality is, it's when your passive income, so the money that you're not working for that's coming in while you sleep, is covering all of the expenses of your lifestyle. Yeah. You've got to make lifestyle decisions about that. What does that look like? So somebody that's got $3,000 a month in expenses and they've got $3,000 a month coming passive, they're financially free.
Right.
Okay. So understanding
that's
that.
mind-blowing though, because no one
doesn't have
breaks
to be
$300,000.
$300,000.
Correct.
Or
we're talking about like, I want my Lambo or I want my whatever. No, it's not.
That's the first thing people say is, I can buy whatever I want without thinking about it. No. Talked to our good friend Jeff Hoffman that you might have heard speak last night, and it's take a look at him. It's not about spending or opulence or any of those things, but I think real estate. The reason that you hear that so often is so we talk about the reality in the finances section. So outside of that financial freedom is your goal of finances. Is that there's 3 different income models. Okay, the first one is public assistance, and that's very real. That's there to help you if you've fallen on some hard times for your needs to be met. It's there. The challenge with it is, and this is where generationally we're having people get stuck, is that it's the most limiting one, and you have no control. You really have no control. The next one, so we encourage people, get out of that as quick as you can. Take the help when you need it. By all means, it is a real income model. Yeah. If you need help, get help. If you need help with food, you're experiencing food security, go to the food bank, because typically most food banks, you're not required to show any income. So wherever you are, wherever you're struggling, whatever income level you're at, go get food there first so you can use your money to take care of your other things, right? So,
well, can we stop there for 1 second?
Sure,
Because
sure,
food
sure.
insecurity, this is something that's been popping up on my radar. It must have even been like once the pandemic started.
I was doing some fundraising, actually, the Idaho Food Bank. I live in Idaho. And so I helped them with development through the pandemic for a period of time. And so I got very intimate, actually, with food insecurity, and certainly have experienced it myself. So share away. I actually have a little knowledge in this area.
So one of my former clients who grew up with food in that type of situation wanted to get his company involved in volunteering, and he's like, well, I'm thinking about actually leaving my job to go work for a nonprofit. And we started discussing it, and it was looking at it from a roadmap perspective of like, well, if you worked for them as a assistant director, you have to start off, and you haven't done this, and you have not, and what are you going to be making? And it's going to be like, $34,000 in South Florida or whatever it is. I'm like, okay, but how much are you making where you're working now? Great. Can you use that leverage to, one, bring the community, bring your business, bring your company in? Can you get more people invested in helping this? Because we're still stuck in one way to solve.
Yeah, how can you amplify your impact? Absolutely.
Right, versus the amplification of it. And a lot of people think that we have to sacrifice one side in order to benefit some other side. But I think that kind of goes back to what we were talking about before the interview, is like, right, this person wasn't yet killing it, but was so committed to helping solve a problem that was relevant to this person's life previously. They were no longer there, but it still is a massive fear, and they wanted to help solve it for other people. Where would you say like people can start if they're not yet killing it when it comes to charities and being involved, and right, whether it's time, whether it's money, how do they figure that out? Where do they start?
Right. So, if we go from that, and actually, we kind of finish out the income thing.
Sure.
Your next step is that vertical income where you're working, you're trading time for dollars, right? So you still are limited by that because there's only so many hours in a day. So now what I do? So even at that point where you're there, honestly, when we've gone in and we've helped people and worked in these vulnerable populations, some of the most generous people that I've known have been in these places. There's a men's transitional living home that we worked with in Sacramento, California. And 3 of the guys, when we started talking about the fulfillment triangle, and part of what we teach is giving back.
Yeah.
That's part of that when we get into the wellness section, actually, when we talk about fulfillment and that spiritual component of the mission and the roadmap is giving back. The things that these guys are doing, some of them were giving some of their money away, like to people they saw that needed help, but they were going back and serving in a food kitchen. Now they're in a transitional home, so they're being fed. They're going to the soup kitchen and volunteering there already, because they knew that they need those people. I've been in the most wealthy of rooms and had people that never even thought about contribution. So when you move then from that, vertical, where you're trading, into the horizontal, the passive, and you're talking about real estate, the beauty of real estate and why it's so simple is that it creates passive income stream right away. I mean, almost right away. I mean, just equity in your home, right, is there. And so what do you do with that equity? How do you utilize that? So I think that's why a lot of people that you talk to, get into that. And so that's the goal, is to move through those income levels so that more and more of what's coming in you're not working for, and slowly that transition goes into 100% passive, which would be a great goal. And this is something we talk about in those most vulnerable, because when I talk to somebody that's on public assistance and say, just hold on, our finances, it's A, B, and C, what's coming in, what's going out, and if there's nothing left over, you need more of the A, right? And so what are some legal side hustles we can do? And we'll shoot around ideas, brainstorm ideas so all of a sudden it makes sense to them that I'm not going to work just one job. I'm not going to get stuck in just one thing. I'm not going to trade this for that. What are all the things I can do to make that happen? Because my goal is that C. And so so they're like, wait, you're telling me, so I'm going to put this together and I'm going to do some things I love and I'm going to make some side money. I'm going to have this hustle and I'm going to, I finally bought a car and I'm going to do Turo. I'm in an apartment and I'm allowed to sublet. And so, my kid moved out now, and so I got an open bedroom. I can have somebody, they're starting to get it, the possibilities, because people are resourceful.
Sure.
They just need to know how to do it. And so we go from that. So the next thing then is, I hate it when people feel like it's an obligation. I mean, truthfully, it is, folks. If you're out there and you've got the means, any level of means, and you're not looking around and saying, how can I make the world better than the place that I'm in right now? I'm not going to say shame on you, but come on.
I'll say it.
Like,
shame on you.
Okay, you say it.
Shame on.
So I didn't say it. I love everybody, and I understand everybody will meet them where they're at. But I want them to come. I don't want them to feel like it's obligation. I want you to use that fulfillment triangle that I said. Where do you love to do? What are you good at? And where is there an opportunity that you can make a difference? And I want you to connect that to your why. What do you care about? Did you lose somebody in your life and you want to cure an illness?
Yeah.
Then do that. Did you experience food insecurity and you want to help that? Then do that. Do you look around and you see the homeless problem in your community, or you see people that are struggling? You see people that are struggling from social injustice because they've never had the tools, and you're aware of it. Now try and understand it. And what can you do so you can? And so we call it time, treasure, or talent. So donate your time. Go volunteer. That's a great place to start because you get to look at the nonprofit and find out what's going on with them, right? And see if you're really aligned. Are they really doing what they say they do? Do they walk their talk, right? Number one. One Life Fully Lived. We all have our own roadmap journey that we're on. This is something we do on a staff meeting.
Amazing.
And we have,
so it's through and through
this
culture.
Completely,
right.
And our executive director, you can look up Carolyn, you can go on our website, watch our docu-short about 3 of the lives that we've impacted, and see that actually the people that are with us have been through struggle themselves, so from many different walks, which is why our founder started it. He too started out kind of as a square peg in a round hole, and just didn't want people to go through what he did, and so he wanted to put it together and help teach others. So talent. So what are you good at? Maybe it's not just volunteering, but maybe you're a great programmer. And, like we're thinking there's got to be an app we can create with this journal, right? And so how can we do that? Because even thanks to the pandemic, I will say one of the things that came out is one-to-one tech grants. And so a lot of these organizations we partnered with, we didn't even skip a beat during the quarantine. We were actually right there with doing virtual events with people in the inner city of Detroit and in Philly. We kept going. And so, maybe you're a tech person and you can help that nonprofit with their tech. Maybe you have a marketing mind and you can help them raise awareness. Maybe you're a great fundraiser, or you just got a network of people, so your talent, that's your next thing, right? And then of course, treasure, and start with a one-time donation. If you see that they did a good job, take a look a little bit more. Are you getting impact reports? Do you know where your money's going? Be sure that you know about that. Be sure they're a nonprofit. You can find most of that out on their website. There's also other organizations out there that track, the impact of charities. You can look at their financial reports. You can look at their, their tax forms, that sort of thing. But then when you give, you have a couple options. You can just give unrestricted and trust the nonprofit because now you've done your research. You trust them to do what they need to do, which those, obviously those are the gifts we like the most because let us figure out where we need it. But if you have a special thing, like we're doing these city blitzes here in Miami, we had a very generous donor that donated enough money to come in and us do a city blitz, and we serve a whole bunch of organizations, and hopefully we're going to certify more people and expand our bandwidth here. That happens, so it's restricted funds or it's specific to a program. I want you to go print 15,000 roadmap journals and give them out, which that happened to us. Awesome podcaster, Christopher Lockhead, did that, and his Follow Your Difference. So he was wonderful and sponsored. So we can give these to everybody for the last year and a half so far. Everybody that goes to a roadmap event gets a free journal thanks to Christopher. But, there's things you can do. And so look at it in your size. What's your scale? So you're just barely getting by, go volunteer or give $10.
Right.
If you love it and you're investing, they're doing great. Most every charity now has a recurring donor program where it's a monthly give. You don't even think about it. You set it up. Just like your Dane subscription. What are you giving Netflix? I mean, are you still giving Netflix? No, I'm not going there. But
you're going to
trade
have
it out, right?
All the people who have been sharing passwords.
That's what I was just going to say. They're all quitting right now. So that money, either up it and you're going to have to pay for your own Netflix out there now, or you can go to onelifefullylive.org and get in our recurring donor program. Exactly. So there you go. $14.99 a month. You know what you do for us at that? But anyway.
Yeah.
There's
Well, what would they for
shameless-
$14.99? What would they for? So let's make it that simple.
Sure.
$15, $14.99 a month.
Sure. So that a month. So you would think that would be at least that's a little bit like our hard costs when we do bulk printing of these. That's right around that neck of the woods, and so that would give us at least 12 journals in a place. But bigger so than that. Really, that takes the lives of, so that'd be 12. 20 people, life-changing things, life-changing role.
Yeah.
You're able to transform their life, to give them the tools right then to make a difference. And so those 12, what does that mean? Because what we found out is for every person we serve, they're telling at least 5 people around them. And so now this is the ripple effect that we see in communities, because anybody that picked up a nugget today from what we've talked about, and I didn't give you a ton of tips, but we gave you a few, right? You're going to tell somebody else, like, I heard this on this. So what if now you're in a community, you're somebody that doesn't have access to this, and suddenly you've shared one tip with them about financial freedom or public assistance, or one of the who are the 5 people that play the greatest influence in your life? Are they an anchor or an engine? So those kinds of nuggets that you share, and you start talking to people and you start teaching it to others around you. So I say 12 people, but to be honest with you,
but that's way more than 12.
The
impact is going to be exponential.
At the end of the day, it is.
Yeah.
Because this is easy to use.
Right.
Simple to use.
Yeah, this is 2.5 Starbucks coffees.
Exactly correct.
Right there.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's So I know our time. I know they're kind of
They're
giving us
waving
the
at
wings.
us.
This is the new thing since now. This is like my first week back doing in-person interviews. Everything's been on Zoom.
Yep,
So
yep.
so now I have like all the wonderful, awesome. I want to first give a
Staff.
shout out to
On-air
really,
brands.
as much as we're joking around, but to give a shout out to On Air Brands and to Eric Cabral. He put all of this together, and I'm in a room. I know you guys might have been hearing some noise over this episode and maybe a few other episodes as I'm here at this conference. It's because I'm in a room with other podcasters that were brought in specifically for this conference to be support and to interview all the amazing people in this community. And right, this One Life Fully Lived, and you've heard other episodes, but again, I want to thank you so much for sharing your time and a little bit of your story and your passion about this. I mean, this is, when I saw it, and I immediately ran, I wanted to connect you with my friend who's in this industry, specifically in the
super
population.
excited.
So looking forward to those and other connections, hopefully.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, and anybody that's out there that obviously, if you want to give, you can go to onelifefullylived.org. It's the number 1 and then lifefullylived.org. We have an easy donate button there. But also, if you have an organization, that you volunteer at now, or there's an organization you know of in your community, please, if you email roadmap at onelifefullylived.org, that allows us to start the process and connect to those people in your community, or if you want to sponsor a city blitz, as I was talking about, reach out to us. We'd love to come out. We'd love to find corporate sponsors that want to see it come to a community and make a difference. So if you're looking for a way to make change right now, reach out to us. We'd love to partner with you. We'd love to bring this everywhere.
Yeah.
We're in a lot of cities, but we'd like to be in a lot more.
So I'll make one little ask from everybody who's listening. So if you've ever, from any show, I don't know what number this is going to come out. It could be 129, it could be 140, whatever episode it's coming out. If you've listened to this show and any other shows and it's had any type of impact on you, please go to the website and just whatever it is, if it's $3, if it's $5, if it's $10, if it's $100, if it's $100,000, whatever it is, minus the credit card processing fee that I'm sure it costs you guys.
That I think they let you, now they ask you, would you like to cover that too? So go right ahead.
Yeah,
but we're fine with it either way. We appreciate your
click
donation.
That button. But even if it's like, if there's any value, I know, right, there's how many episodes it's going to be at this point. I don't care about the reviews. Just give something and do it, on my behalf of that. You got something out of this conversation and previous conversations. And again,
awesome.
Looking forward
It's been
to our next
beautiful with you.
conversation
Thank you
with
so
you.
much.
Of course.
Thanks for everything.